So yeah, art, ethics, and GG Allin. What sort of ethical, moral obligations do artists have when creating art? And should people feel bad for listening to music by terrible people?
Now, for that last part, I don't agree. Charles Manson is on my playlist. Let's go ahead and start with that out of the gate. When I was driving over here, Cease to Exist came on. It's a good little blues song. I mean, lyrics are pretty fucked. It's talking about like submitting to your like master or something. It's really fucked, and it's knowing that he ran a literal death cult. Well, not death cult, a cult that killed people. It's pretty bad. But I mean, I like the song, and the Beach Boys did a great version of it.
That's wild.
It's a good song.
I wouldn't necessarily say that you should feel bad because you like something that someone who's unethical made. I think that once you start to make excuses for the things that they did that are unethical and you justify their actions just because you like them, I think that's not a good mindset to have. And with GG Allin,
Oh no.
so we've gone back and forth with this topic quite a bit with some of my band members from Blinded by Blood, and we discussed this for a second without microphones, and I think he's a good example of like who to not support because of his whole premise being unethical. Like his persona is to be as unethical as possible, and in doing that, he actually did harm a lot of people. Literally like sexually assaulted men and women, multiple of them, in front of audiences. And then like he married a 16-year-old and then got her pregnant. It's like, he's not just unethical just for the persona, even though he likes that. He's unethical in his actual person, like behind the persona of GG Allin, like he does not care. And, you know, slay. But also, like, like, no, you ate, but also, like, you're evil and you deserve to rot in hell, and that's where he is.
I know, Mason, you have, every time we play Fuck GG Allin live, you have your phrase, and it's, heroin did the world a favor.
Yeah, because it did.
It is a very good phrase.
People say you can divide the music from the person, you know, what they put off on stage, but what he was putting off on stage was how he was. I mean, he was just a predator, you know.
On and off stage.
Have you looked into his life? It's like really fucked.
I have, actually.
Everything about it is fucked.
I looked into his life, and that's
so
why
bad.
I went on a spiral of like, is this reality? And yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's not exaggerated. Like he and his brother, because his brother was in his band and his biggest supporter, like they did not grow up in a good environment, but that's not an excuse to do the things that he did to, again, multiple people in front of an audience. Like that's what I really want to hound.
That's what's crazy to me is that usually you hear about like these artists that are really like they're terrible people. They always do it behind closed doors, and you hear say GG Allin literally went on stage and did the most heinous things for real. And people are just like...
And people paid.
Yes.
Well,
people paid.
Yes. You paid to get assaulted.
He made money from that.
Well, he made a living off that, which is crazy. And I think, too, a lot, because he came up in, like, the early 80s to, like... When did he die? Like, 90-something?
Should have died sooner.
Too late. Too late.
Too late, I see.
Should have been aborted by birds. His mama should have swallowed him.
I can see a lot of people at the time, because the way America was during the Reagan years, of them being like... Oh, this guy's crazy. Oh, this guy's against, like, totally an outsider. Let's listen to him. And I don't think people understood what exactly was happening, like, on stage at his shows, because people were just, like, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar. I'm not that old. I don't know what it was like to be around in the 80s when GG Allin was doing his hijinks, to put it lightly.
I don't think anyone cares about him, to be honest.
Oh, people care about him, which is a problem.
I don't think people should. It's a time in the past. It's like Kiss or anything like that, you know. Should be forgotten.
Well, like, why listen to GG Allin when the Misfits were so much better?
Exactly. Or the Sex Pistols.
And they never, to my knowledge, raped anybody. Did Glenn Danzig rape somebody?
I mean, the risk of going to a GG Allin show, as I understand it, is a big part of the appeal. That's like the Dionysian festivals. You'd get drunk, you'd have orgies in the street. People would just mutilate and kill each other. And that was part of the ritual. And it's there because life gets boring. Being safe, abiding by morals, by ethical standards all the time Yes, it makes society better if everyone behaves themselves. But isn't it just fun to like be in a space, at least voluntarily, where you might get decked, shat upon, whatever?
You know, with GG Allin, I don't know. Not everybody was going to these shows thinking, hey, this is going to be an amazing experience for me, and I'm going to, oh, it's so wonderful, you know, and they come out and then they're scarred for life. They're there to see a punk show. Not everybody knows who he is, you know.
I compare this to McKinney Manor almost. Like, if we're talking artistic things that people might get themselves into that they can't really get out, I mean, McKinney Manor, the haunted house that goes to the extremes and has a no safe word policy type deal. It's like people keep signing up for it. Everybody, I mean, McKinney Manor also has been recently exposed as being not actually like scary. It's just straight abuse, and they just do it for the camera, like footage. But it's a similar deal of like, it's that weird contrast between how much of a responsibility to you is it to educate your audience that like this is what you're coming here for. Like if you go to an orgy out of nowhere and suddenly everyone's whipping their pants off and you're like, what's happening? Why? No, like, I mean, did you know it was an orgy? I'm not justified, but like I think it needs to be more well known throughout the people, and the artist to an extent should let people know so that everyone has a quotation marks good time, a time they expect to have.
Well, the thing for me is that when it comes down to when all this was happening, it's like the 80s and early 90s. There's no real way to know what you're really getting into.
There's no TikTok, there's no social media.
There's no social media. The TV news is just like, see what the president's doing today? Like, they're not talking about GG Allin or anything. Because no one would talk about GG Allin. He's kind of like a traveling circus that just comes at, like, you're just like, oh, another punk show. That's why all these people probably went there. I can't say because I wasn't around at the time.
This also kind of like loops back to the original prompt too. Like, are you associated with the person putting on the concert if you attend it? Are you consenting to this treatment if you just attend the concert, right? If you listen to this person's music, do you agree with their narrative?
Yeah, it's got to be
like,
on the promoters.
Are you going to have, right? Somebody can just go to a show and be like, this is a fucking Bob. This guy's a piece of shit. I don't want to get raped if I want to go enjoy live music. Like,
yeah.
And also, again, there is a huge distinction between the McKinley Manor going, oh, hey, we're going to put you through a whole lot of shit. There's a distinction between that versus hearsay, everybody else on the planet except for GG Allin himself telling you that you're going to go through shit at his concert.
Yeah, it's not like he was. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't around. I don't know if he was advertising it. Like, what did he have? Like a crier in the street being like, "Come on over, we're getting raped."
Hear ye, hear ye.
But I think it goes to show people should do their own research before they do things in some type of ways.
This was 1980.
That's all right. You can still do research.
That's the thing is nowadays you can do your research and you can do that. Back then you were just kind of, let's say back in the day you were a teenager, like an outcast. And like fucking whatever, bumfuck Indiana. And they're like, punk rock artist comes to town and you don't know what GG Allin's about.
We have to remember that there's multiple like bands playing at like the show. It's not just him headlining. You can be there for another band and he can be there at like after the band that you were there for. So you're just like, oh, what's this dude up to? And then you're just like, you see things that you never want to see, or something happens to you, and you're just like, I just want to see this band. Like, what the fuck is happening?
I mean, if we're protecting it, what standpoint are we protecting GG Allin from? Are we protecting it from the moral standpoints? Are we protecting him from the artistic side? Could it be excused, or is it a moral issue? I think it's a moral issue. I think where morality comes into the play of art is when it actually affects people that don't want to be affected. You're bringing your own personal wants into your music, and it's not an act. It's real. It's hurting people that don't want to be hurt in any way, you know, scarred, whatever. I don't care, you know. But yeah, so what point are we protecting it from, you know, for the people that would protect it? That's my true question. If you like the music, fair to be it. You fucking have a shitty taste in punk music. That's all I have to say.
Like I said, you can listen to the Misfits. They're way better, and they're around the same time.
So much better.
As much as a fucking weird asshole Glenn Danzig is, like,
At least he's not a rapist.
At least he's not a rape that I know of.
Yeah, that we know of.
That we
Could be
know
a
of.
Marilyn Manson type of thing.
Marilyn Manson. Oh, yeah.
Marilyn Manson's a whole different.
I forgot all about that.
He's too entwined with 9 Inch Nails for me to forget it because I love 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah, I see
My
that.
thing about Marilyn Manson is don't get into a relationship with a dude who's literally a bishop of the Church of Satan. Like, that's just, I think on principle, just a good idea.
The woman that Marilyn Manson abused had religious trauma herself. Her dad was literally the leader of a, like, well-known in the area, actually regionally in our area, like of a little theater that was completely run by like Christianity. And the whole reason why she like took this relationship with Marilyn Manson was out of rebellion to that.
That always sucks. That's what I was thinking about GG Allin, is that, like what I was saying earlier, is that these outcast punks who like have nobody, they go to like a punk show and it's just that. That's just terrible.
Yeah, I want to respond to Mason because the reason I'm playing devil's advocate and
You're like a lawyer. Some people have to be the Viet Cong, some
we're
people have to be the GI. So just keep that in mind.
It's
okay?
awkward getting to a room if everyone's like, fuck GG Allin.
GG Allin discussion is my own personal
But yeah.
Vietnam War.
this has always been sort of the trajectory of punk. The movement started as a way to challenge people's sense of morality. The music was aggressive, it was offensive. At that point in 1970s Britain, having your band named the Sex Pistols was perceived as something offensive on par with violence because it's public. You're broadcasting dirty words in public. People are seeing it without consent. It's the same argument. And then at Sex Pistols shows, like, Sid Vicious would just attack people in the audience, and that's how punk mosh pits start. And they liked it so much that they invited him to play bass.
And I think that's good points, and then you can take that standpoint into anything in society, I guess. Like war, you know, an artistical view, it should happen. We should see it. It should be broadcasted. It's a great thing, you know. It should happen. These people should die. Civilians should learn. They should leave or they should die, you know. Could that be a good way to look at it? Because people have to question morality. Should we kill each other, you know? Or you know, like, people are harmed in that way. I'm not saying that your standpoint is the same thing. I'm just saying if those people are harmed, that's my whole problem with things.
And this is why my main interest here is the question of consent and implied consent. I think the ethical ideal is death clock. When you go to a death clock show, you have to sign your pain waiver.
And you have to shower.
Everyone knows you might get mutilated, but that's what they're there for, and you sign a waiver. Now, they are also the world's 7th largest economy, so they can afford to have waivers. Most DIY punk bands, if they want to push boundaries, they don't have the resources and legal team to manage all that. So instead, you advertise it by, a lot of the time, naming your band something offensive. Sex Pistols, Incest Breath. You go to an Incest Breath show.
Shout out to Incest Breath for that.
Shout out.
They get asked every time they play a gig, why are you called that? And they always double down, and I respect that.
They've been denied from like venues because they're named Incest Breath, but there's just
That kinda
so
makes
I
sense.
disagree
it's
with
so
that.
North Carolina.
They should keep that as their motto. Modern day Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
I'm against censorship. That is one thing I'm against. I believe people nowadays in the school system, it's very, you know, whatever, propaganda saying that little kids are seeing sex and stuff on their books, you know.
Let me get a propaganda at that ass. Know what I'm saying?
Exactly, buddy.
Ethan, what the? Why is the only thing you said in the last 20 minutes that?
Aim for the cock and balls.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like now would be a good time to ground our conversation about art, ethics, and morality with some definitions. Specifically, the difference between ethics and morality. They're very vague terms. They get thrown around a lot. In my mind, the main difference is morality is a set of transcendent rules. It's derived from some sort of objective principle, whether that's God, whether that's evolution, whatever you pick. And it refers to what you ought to do in a general situation. So don't kill, don't lie, don't walk around naked. Those are moral principles. You can think about morality in the sense of the moral of a story. Like a fable gives you an abstract set of instructions for how to live life. When we start talking about literature more generally, and also music, other art, There are stories where the bad guy wins, where there is no moral, where evil is glamorized, and these are immoral stories. A lot of metal music is immoral in that sense. It portrays disturbing things. On the other hand, ethics is a framework for evaluating specific situations. It's supposed to be not transcendent. Ethics is about how we choose to live our lives, moment to moment, and the effects of our actions.
I 100% agree with you on that statement. And I think a good point on that is the Red Dead series. If you think about it, the Pinkertons were always the bad guys. They did whatever they could to win. And in the end, they killed John Marston, and they won, and then John's son came back and met him at the river and shot him right in the head.
Now, the Pinkertons
And
are
it
still the bad
repeats.
guys.
They are. It's called the CIA.
The FBI.
FBI, yeah.
Alphabet boys.
What does this have to do with ethics?
Power.
Because if you think about it, they would do anything. The Pinkertons would do anything to win. They're going against outlaws, ruthless killers. But at the same time, the FBI will kill anyone to get what they want. They'll steal someone. They'll steal
At
a
least
kid.
back in the day.
Back in the day,
The J. Edgar Hoover
they would
days.
never burn kids in a compound.
Does the end justify the means?
Yeah, exactly. And a good saying that Dutch Vanderlyn once said, the only difference between me and the government is I pick and choose who I rob from and kill. And that's true right there.
Now, relate that to music.
They played music in the camp and sung.
No.
They played very loud music and scary music, and also sounds of pigs and people being tortured while they were sieging Waco.
Maybe, I was about to say, maybe in your playthrough of Red Dead.
It was baby rabbits dying. I think.
The ethics part is, what will you do to get to the end that you want?
If you do a bunch of bad things that creates good in the world, did you do bad things in the first
Yes.
place? No, that is the argument of ethics.
There's actions versus
That's an opinion.
causality,
What do you mean,
what
no?
happens.
That is objectively immoral to do bad things to enact a good result.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But I don't give a shit about morals.
Okay.
Morals are constructed. They are pretending to be objective when they are not. They're always rooted in some sort of cultural trend. And ethics, for me, is more about asking that question. What is the end result? What's the effects on the world? How does this actually matter? And in the context of art, there's plenty of immoral art, like anything by Lars von Trier. It's depicting terrible things, and it has no obvious moral to it. That doesn't seem like unethical art to me. Unethical art, in my mind, is like $1 million bands going on tours, exploiting below minimum wage labor, purchasing gear that's manufactured in third world countries. That's what ethics is for me, is the actual effects. How does this relate to people's ability to live, how you behave?
So unethical and unmoral are two different definitions to you.
Yes.
Well, I think they are, actually. Yeah.
Definitely.
When I think about unethical and unmoral, I'm not gonna lie, to me, I think about like someone who just doesn't think that the care or life of other people means anything to them. That's why I think for both definitions, bringing it back to, I guess, technically GG Allin, like it's a good example of like if you're listening to a musician that spreads harm and their persona is to do harm, like is that not unmoral and unethical to like support that artist in that way? Like if you know that they're not making art for like the betterment of people, they're making like art for the opposite, like the worst, is that not unethical and unmoral?
I mean, this is the great question. Again, morality is supposed to be transcendent, objective, and ethics is a lot more like actual cost-benefit analysis. So I buy things off of Amazon. Amazon sucks. They exploit labor.
Capitalist pig.
So the ethical question there is, when I buy something off Amazon, is the dent I am making in this whole capitalism machine, is the amount of support I'm giving to Amazon by purchasing something worse than the benefit and the good I can put back into the world by having like a cheap ice cube tray so I can make my friends cocktails for free? That's how I'm weighing it. And if I'm buying a Marilyn Manson record, Marilyn Manson, I guess he's a piece of shit. I've never met him.
You get
Fair.
I mean, that's his entire brand, which is my thing of like, yeah.
Oh, there is that conversation. But also, is the amount of money I'm giving to Marilyn Manson, one, how much of that's actually going to Marilyn Manson? Two, like how much of his production team and all of that are also pieces of shit and rapists and everything, because music industry.
probably a good bit.
But also, the amount of joy it brings me and the amount of inspiration and the amount of good I can put back into the world based on engaging in this transaction or going to a show and supporting someone who's not great, whether or not I know they're not great. It's always a cost-benefit analysis to me.
Just to kind of that again, like, is your joy worth like the support of someone who is not bringing joy to others?
That's the question.
That relates to something Glass is going through. We have a fan who, I won't name names, who was aligned with the Nazi beliefs.
I know him.
I don't want to say their name.
You don't have to. I know.
It's just strange because it's like he obviously shows it. He's not hiding it. He wears the Doc Martens with the white laces. He's full on, and he talks about it. Another thing is, I was approached by a group of them, and that's all I'm going to say. They thought I was associated with that. How? Look, I mean, no, the viewers can't see. I mean, how? You know what I'm saying? How?
Just imagine.
Look at the shoes. Look at the shoes, the sandals. What are you talking about? I'm dressed like Jesus today, my friend.
So, like the whole cost-benefit analysis thing, I'll almost say that it is more immoral to disregard the good that you can do to the world by almost selfishly and self-righteously committing to this ideology that you just cannot dare support this person, right? So, like, Marilyn Manson is objectively a piece of shit, and he's so loud and proud about it, right? But again, if you're able to transform this maybe fucking 1 cent that he makes off of your quote-unquote support, right? Your financial compensation.
Yeah.
For you to not acknowledge the good that you can actually feasibly do to humanity and instead just commit to just disliking this person despite the lack of actual effect that would have on the world. I think that's the question between like morals and ethics. Like, we can individually say, just like we can individually go, okay, well, we're just gonna not use fucking plastic straws. We're gonna individually say we're gonna take shorter showers. Does that actually really impact the planet? No, it doesn't. If you do certain other things that might actually, like, buy a plastic fucking like pre-cut pineapple because you're late to a party, and if you don't get pre-cut pineapple, then nobody's gonna have snacks. Then
That's
you're gonna
awful
wanna.
specific.
I've fucking done it before, Ethan. Suck my dick.
Touche.
Suck my
Shout
dick.
out to Ethan.
All right, say when. Say when. Say when.
After we're done talking about ethics,
So another 3 weeks.
I think that like group derivative morals, I think, are very trend-based. They're very culture-based. But I do think that it is also a very individual and subjective experience.
Yeah, I mean, how much is just saying, like, I'm not doing this because it's, like, on my moral basis? And how much are you saying, I'm not doing this because if, like, you look at the actual chain, it goes down and trickles down, like, it'll be bad if I do this?
How much of this is based around your personal image?
Like, I mean, how do we know that
Tim, can you talk into the mic?
Yeah, talking to the mic. Coming to the mic. Get up on
on a microphone? I've got a deep throat microphone. I've got a deep.
You're giving 2 mics. All of our mics.
Get all the mics.
Okay, like what I was saying is, like, if you say that we can't buy products or buy from certain people that we don't really truly accept what they do, how do we know, like, what we are buying? How do we know what's happening behind closed doors?
With the approved people that we think are good. I understand that. I think it's just about, what do you think is right? I think this has to, like, break down to, like, you don't know all the information. Just for example, for GG Allin, he's very different from other artists who have done minor things that are not good. I choose not to support him because I think that there's it's more negative than positive. Like, let's say like he did make good music, which he doesn't.
Like I said, listen to the Misfits.
Exactly,
instead.
listen to the Misfits if you like GG Allin genuinely. But like, even if his music was good, it's like, what does that really give to me? Like, I feel like it's going against the people that he's harmed if you give support to the person that has harmed them. Like, not to say that everything is black and white, but when it comes to like victims and like and perpetrators, if you are not on the side of the victim, then you are on the side of the perpetrator. And that's what I think about when it comes to like artists who are just like Chris Brown. Okay,
It's a better example. GG Allin's also dead. You can't support him.
I was gonna say, what about what if he's dead?
I'll talk about Chris Brown because he's the living equivalent of GG Allin because Chris Brown.
Whoa! Oh my God!